1. Recording is in progress, and welcome to the San Diego Equality Business Alliance and our monthly program, the Power Lunch. I'm your host. We're getting a big hey, SDEB.
Hey!
I always look forward to that. Welcome to the Power Lunch event. I'm your host, Milo Shapiro, the author of Public Speaking, Get A's, Not Z's, dealing with my new technology here, bringing to you this live from Windows 11, which I recommend to no one. Hold on to 10 as long as you possibly can. 11 is not ready for prime time, but we're muddling through and we're making it happen. So we are the Chamber of Commerce for San Diego's LGBT plus community, and any allies who want to be with us, all are welcome who want to be here with us. We are here in June, where we have, apparently today is World Oceans Day. I'm not going to be getting to the ocean myself, but it is also Best Friends Day. So I plan to be talking to my best friend and wish him a happy Best Friends Day. So you get your choice of holidays during National Safety Month. Thought it was Pride Month? No, it's National Safety Month as well. So got to cover both bases. But it is Pride Month. We're excited to have our Pride issue today with our Pride related guest. We'll be talking more to him in a little while. But first, a little background as we move into our Pride Month. If you don't know yet, Pride in San Diego is July 9th to 17th, with the ending part of that being our Pride celebration. The rest of the world can celebrate June Pride and we can wish them well, but we secretly in San Diego know it's all about July. So happy Pride Month to everyone.
Milo, you're not sharing your screen, by the way, if you think you are.
You're kidding. All these slides are not happening, really? Thank you for letting me know. Let's try that again. I don't know where it went. Seeing it now?
Yes.
Okay. I won't go back through them. There were some pictures. Oh, well. So let's see if this is going to advance. Now, like I said, Windows 11, a total joy. If you haven't yet, please now do mute yourselves so that we have the program going, and we'll call upon you at the right times. Alt-A is your easiest way on a PC, Mac, Shift-Command-A to just toggle that on and off. Turn on the chat because someone might want to say something to you about something you've said, or they recognize you or want to say hi. Also, we recommend you turn on the participants window. I'll explain why a little bit later. Both of those buttons are useful. We are going to be putting this video on YouTube so that people have a chance to see what we had. Sometimes people say, oh, I missed the meeting. I'm like, don't have to miss it. Can't share after the fact, but you can at least hear what everyone had to say and our guest. So please know that'll also be put on Facebook. Hopefully nobody has a problem with that. Today's sponsor is Lancôme of Paris, because if you don't look beautiful all of the time, we're not doing our job. If we can make Julia Roberts look good still, we're doing our part. Of course, this is really my way of saying we didn't have a sponsor for this month. So if you would like to take advantage of this time and everyone being focused in the middle here, please talk to Jeremy or me about whether or not we have a sponsor for next time, and we'd be most likely happy to say to you, yes. And the phrase is talk to Jeremy or me. I don't know where that myself thing came from. If you're writing to yourself, I'm never seeing it, am I? All right, so you can be next month's sponsor. Helping us out today, we have CJ, who's behind the controls. He's making things happen in the background, taping and advancing things and whispering in my ear sometimes, or at least the chat to let me know I'm off target. Brenda is going to be our timer, and she'll explain in a little while what's happening with that. And Brenda, the timing cues I texted you seem like they're going to be right on for today. So we also have our SDEBA board. They're always doing things in the background that we'll probably never know half of to make sure that we're on target, keeping things happening and keeping things legal. So our thank you to them as ever. What does SDEBA stand for? Can I ask Barbara if she would unmute for a moment and read our mission statement?
Yes, certainly. What does SDEBA stand for? Well, the San Diego Equality Business Association promotes the LGBTQ influence through business ownership, workforce equality, and active consumerism, creating prosperity to support equality, diversity, and inclusion.
Pretty good. Well, good reading. I mean, a very good reading, but pretty good that we came up with this as our mission statement. It sounds like something we should all be able to get behind. As a member, you're entitled to a whole bunch of features. If you are a member or if you're thinking of becoming one, you're listed on our website. That's probably the biggest one. I know when I'm looking for features and services in the area, I go to it. For instance, if I typed in engraving, boom, VASC would come right up and I could click on that and learn all about them and know that I'm supporting people who support our community. So to be listed there, that's a free membership benefit. We also have the app to let you know a little bit better what's going on, how to connect with people, what events are coming up, register for things. It's great to take advantage of the app. But we also have upcoming events. I didn't think this was here this early on, but Jeremy, you want to take a moment and talk about the spring? That's past. That's why that's not supposed to be there. We're going to go right past that and say that we have events like this online and events offline. So at the right time, Jeremy will be telling us about our upcoming social event in July. Sorry, that's an old slide. I only can do so much here with that. What is today about? Today is a chance for you to share what you offer with a larger section of the SDEBA community. When you're going to the networking events, which are great, but you only get to talk to who you meet. This gives you a chance to kind of talk to everyone at once when it's your turn. It gives you a chance to learn about what others offers in our community that you might want to take advantage of. And we provide education in various areas to our members through these events like the Power Lunch. It also helps grow the SDEBA family because it's an easy thing to invite people to show them what we're all about, give them a chance to meet us and see if they want to get involved. What this isn't is a chance to be exclusive by industry. So there could be 4 realtors on here. There could be 3 life coaches on here. And for today, in this particular setting, that's fine. It's not a chance to learn intimately about each other's business because we have just a little time for each person, but it's enough to hopefully give people a teaser to go, I should reach out to her, or wow, he sounds interesting. We should meet, or we should link in, whatever. It's not a replacement for our business networking groups where we get together. That is an area where it's one industry per group. So we get to know that person and why we would recommend them on a weekly basis. And we trade business tips. We have a chance to really feel like if we're in a group of 10, that's 9 other people advocating for us, which makes us feel a little less alone in the world. And it's not a commitment. While we want you to be here every month, if you got a big client meeting at noon next month, then be at that, of course, and then put us on your schedule for the next month after that. And finally, it's not a place to sell to us. It's more about helping us understand what you do so we can be an advocate for you. Do we occasionally give each other business? Of course, but think more in terms of creating connections and relationships through SDEBA than actually selling. So our meeting format is we're going to go through this opening. We're going to have our member introductions. Our guest interview will not be like Greg Louganis because he did an excellent job last time. But now this time we have Fernando. Slides I did not catch as I was going through it. Upcoming events and announcements to know about, and our official closing will be at 1 p.m. One thing I do need to find out, because I didn't hear back on this, is whether Fernando can stay a little bit afterwards for Q&A. I have to get to a client meeting, but if he can stay, I can let that continue then. Sometimes in that time, that's what that slide is for, to remind me. When is it your turn? How do you know when to get up and take your turn and talk about yourself? Well, the participants window is pretty much alphabetical other than a few people who are helping running the organization at the top. But once we get through that list, we'll be alphabetical from that point on. When you hear your name, that's your cue to unmute. Please don't anticipate it and do it, because as annoying as it is in Zoom, the minute you unmute, you shoot to the top and I lose you in my list. So when you hear me say your name, that's when you unmute, so you know it's really your turn. You can share orally, or you can do screen sharing if you're comfortable with that and you've used it before. And that counts as a little part of your time, so be sure you're comfortable. Otherwise, just talk. Afterwards, please remute, unshare your screen if need be, and then that's your chance after that to share your big 5. Your name, website, phone number, email, LinkedIn address, any combination of that over in the chat. So the people who say, she's fascinating, I need to talk to her, know how to do that. Keeping us on time today, we have not Barbara this month. Darn it, Brenda is, at least it's the right picture. We have Brenda who's going to be giving us our timing cues, which she's going to unmute right now and tell us how those work.
Let's see. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to want to make sure that you can see me as you're doing your introduction, because I've got a couple of visual prompts for you. At 35 seconds, everyone's going to have 40 seconds to introduce themselves today. 40 seconds. And so at 35 seconds, I'm going to hold up this yellow card right here. And then at 40 seconds, I'm going to hold up this red card right here. And this is your stop sign that you should be done with your introduction. And then a little tip for you guys is, as folks are sharing who they are and who they serve and sharing about themselves, take some notes so that later on you're able to follow up and connect with them later on.
Great piece of advice. But Brenda, let's give them that last 5 seconds. So when the stop sign goes up, they have 5 seconds to wrap that up. Gotcha. And then Brenda's likely to say, thank you. And that's how you know you really are done.
And then pull you up with a hook.
Right. The verbal hook. So away we go. We're going to start with the top of the attendees list. I am going to stop screen sharing, not Sue. There we go, so that I can see the attendee list. And we're going to go right to the top of our list with our master of controls, CJ, who's going to show you how it's done in his 45 seconds. So over to you, CJ.
Hi, everyone. My name is CJ Gilbert. I've been a website developer for over 25 years. Now I'm also a speaker and author. I work with business owners and entrepreneurs who want to use their website and other online tools to more effectively support their business, attract new customers, and improve their customer service, and so many other things. I'm going to drop my resource page into the chat box for you right now so you can come check out all the free resources I have available, especially check out my free video workshop if you have not before all about how to make your website work for you. And then come see what I'm doing on my YouTube channel called Ask a Web Geek. I'm releasing 3 videos per week right now to build up my YouTube channel and just flood it with all the information I've been filming. Won't you please come check that out, especially this video on how to do small business networking, a great resource to teach others what we're doing right here. CJ Gilbert, Gilbert Studios, website design, and the Ask a Web Geek show. We understand the internet is a jungle.
Thank you, CJ.
Well done, CJ. Great example to follow. All right, Brenda, how about you give us a little background on what you do?
Absolutely. So my name is Brenda Geary, and I'm passionate about health and wellness. In my prior life, I was a corporate human resources VP, and then life happened for me in 2004, and I got really
on
sick.
a call.
And what that meant for me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rod, can you, thank you, Rod. Go on, Brenda.
Can I start over?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so my name is Brenda Geary. I'm passionate about health and wellness. In my prior life, I was an HR VP. I loved what I did, and then life happened for me in 2004 when I got really sick. And what that meant for me is that I lost my quality of life, and I went from being a vibrant individual to being in bed 20 hours a day on 24 prescription medications in chronic pain. And when I was introduced to some products that work from the inside out, they changed my life. And so I went from that person that was in bed to now living life out loud off of all 24 prescription medications. And so what I do is I teach people how to optimize their health at the cellular level. So if you know of anybody that's in this picture here and would like to change their health story, that's a great connection for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Jeremy, I have you near the top of the list before we get to the alphabet. Is there anything you wanted to say other than about the event? Because we have a slide for that.
So I have a couple slides I want to share, Milo. I can do that later if that's fine. Or
Okay.
I can do it now. Okay,
You can
so I'll
do
do
it
that later. I'll do it later. But welcome everyone to the Power Lunch. It's great to see some new faces. I just want to share with you that if you are contacted by Karen Perlman from the San Diego Business Journal, that is a legitimate interview request. We're featuring 4 businesses per week in the San Diego Business Journal during the month of June. So I gave her a list, and if she reaches out to you, great. I was featured, as well as Fernando, in the cover of the June 6th Monday issue of San Diego Business Journal. You guys, this is a great opportunity for us to engage with the greater business community in San Diego. This is a first. We've never had mainstream press in such a large publication. They have 10,000, their circulation is 10,000 magazines weekly, a lot of online support. I met with the editor and the publisher. They're very much behind us and excited to partner with us. And so I'll be talking more about the top 50 leaders of influence. But if Karen Perlman reaches out to you, it's legitimate. Again, welcome everyone, and I'll talk a little bit more after Fernando's presentation.
Thanks. And thank you for arranging that, because Karen reached out to me with your recommendation. She sent me the draft. It was 2 pages. I'm like, oh, she said, my editors will cut that back down. I'm sure. I'm like, if it's even 1 page, holy cow. So a really great opportunity. Thank you, Jeremy, for being, and by the way, you have to self-submit. So I'm sure you're going to show them over in the text over on the side how people submit yourself, and Karen may reach out to you and do a feature on you, or at least list you. Moving into our alphabetical list now, up in the top of the A's, we have Adriana Runner. So Adriana, if you would please share.
Thank you, Milo. So I'm Adriana Brune with my Point Credit Union. Very new board member, and I can tell you how excited I am. I'm so happy for that. So we are your local credit union. We formerly were Point Loma Credit Union, and I would say we are a super cool credit union. Look at our color, orange. And our logo and slogan is "We help you do." So we have everything from retail to business services. I'm very engaged, and we want to actually do further things with the San Diego Quality Business Association. So short and sweet, like the coffee from Colombia. Thank you.
And she lived their motto, right? I mean, I use this every day in the books that she gives us, so thank you. Okay, the next person we have up is Andrew Yoshimura.
Hi, everyone. It's been a little bit since I've attended one of these. My name is Andrew Yoshimura. I am the Director of Operations at Pride Resource Partners. We are a project management, construction management company headquartered here in San Diego, providing these services mainly to utility clients, SDG&E, PG&E, SoCal Edison. We do also work within the water utility and transportation space as well. I was previously on the board of the SDEBA, and it is really a great connector of us LGBT business professionals. So congratulations to everyone for being here, and thank you again for having me.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to cut over to Barbara Eldridge.
Yes, Barbara Eldridge with Mind Masters. We are a support system for the small business owner. So on a weekly basis, it's important to have the encouragement and sometimes the accountability from other business owners. We do it now on Zoom. Always used to do it in person, but on a weekly basis, we do invite people to visit our group. It is a membership organization, but I think the experience of coming and seeing the amount of information and support that is shared is well worth the time and energy. Again, it's Barbara Eldridge with Mind Masters with an S.
Worth mentioning that, especially if there's going to be a .com involved. Fernando, is there anything you want to say at this point, or do you just want to save it all for later?
You'll hear enough later, I'm sure.
Okay, I always give people that option, but I forgot to ask you in advance. So that brings us down to the J's, big jump in from B to F to J. So Jason Coleman, you are up. The first 15 seconds are always unmuting. I understand, I've been there.
Working now?
Got it.
Okay, great. Hi guys, my name is Jason Coleman. I am a real estate broker here in San Diego. We just opened our official office in Normal Heights this year, and we're a growing brokerage. I usually like to say just a couple of fun things about myself. 20 years in real estate and property management and all that fun stuff. But an interesting thing is that I used to be a private jet attendant for 11 years while starting my career in real estate and whatnot. And I worked for some of the biggest celebrities and CEOs and high wealth and high attitude clients you can think of. So if you ever want to hear a good celebrity story, I'm your guy. So and thank you very much. This is our first time here. We're super excited to hear about you guys.
Thanks, Jason. We need to move on, but I bet there's some great stories there. Yes, I would love to hear them sometime at the mixer. Find me at the mixer and share some stories.
You got it.
Okay. Moving on into the list further, I see Julie is up next. Julie?
Well, thank you. And thank you, Jeremy, for inviting me today. So I'm with City National Bank. I've been in banking for over 20 years, and this institution is a place where we truly can make a difference by helping our business individuals and local economies thrive. And our high-touch personal service is really what sets us apart from our retail competitors. I've been in retail. This is not retail, and retail is a word that they do not let you say here at City National Bank, because here you're never just a number. You're truly part of our family.
Thank you. That's a sweet way of thinking of it. Next up, we have Karen Kaufman.
Hi, I'm Karen Kaufman. I'm the president of the San Diego Women's Chorus. We're a chorus that supports LGBTQ rights. We're going to have a Pride concert on July 14th at the MCC Church in Claremont. You're all invited. We're also looking for items that we can use for our silent auction and raffle. So if you have something you'd like to offer, you can contact me at president@sdwc.org. I'll put that in the chat. And we also will have a program in our fall concert where you could have ads.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you for what you do for the organization. That's terrific. I have up next, got to scroll, Paul Needleman.
Good morning. I'm Paul Needleman. I'm the owner of Cleanology Housekeeping Personnel Service. Our focus is residential housekeeping services for the individuals, whether they're one-time cleanings, say move-in or move-out cleanings, or recurring weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. We also have business-to-business relationships with realtors and residential property management companies for their turnover cleanings, and the occasional commercial business as well. Been in business since 2003, so we're in our 20th year, and been named Best of San Diego the last 4 straight years in Union Tribune Readers Poll, and we're nominated again this month, and we'll hopefully hear for our 5th year next month. Thank you all.
20 years, congratulations. That's no small accomplishment.
Thank you.
Paula Cerno up next.
Hi there, nice to meet you, and thank you for inviting me, Jeremy. It's so fun to see some familiar faces. My name is Paula Cerno, and I'm a real estate agent in San Diego. I work with Jason Coleman, you met him earlier, my broker. I've worked here for over 20 years, so I'm a constant. I know the market's changing and the interest rates are changing, but something's always changing. So give us a call and let's talk about it. We're experienced, honest, fair, and fun. Do I get to say fun?
You could definitely say fun. And I like that attitude because you're right. People think, oh my God, what about now? There's never been a time something wasn't going on in real estate.
Exactly. 100%. Thank you.
Sure. Let's cut over to Rod Spear now. Rod, are you available?
Hey, everybody. And sorry, Brenda, earlier for talking over you.
That's okay. No worries.
I'm on my phone and not on my laptop. I work for the Westgate Hotel as a senior sales manager. I handle group sales. So if you're looking for a conference space or a place to have a convention or meeting, we're the location. We're proud supporters of Pride, progressive Pride flags for all of our leadership team. And we have our Pride flag flying proudly for June and also for San Diego Pride in July. Thank you. I'll send my contact information in the messages.
Sweet. And thank you again for being the host for our last big event. That was such a nice one down there at the Westgate. You guys did a great job and the food was terrific. Next up we have Samantha.
Hello, everyone. My name is Samantha Scholl. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, Jeremy, for inviting me. I am the Entrepreneur Program Manager for the Better Business Bureau. Basically, what that means is I'm part of our innovations team here in San Diego, and we provide educational programming, small business incubators, and a small business accelerator, sub-grant opportunities, and networking opportunities for entrepreneurs in San Diego and small business owners, in addition to everyday entrepreneurs and those in underserved communities. So I'm super excited to be here and connect with everyone. Proud Pride supporter here as well. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Love your energy. Thanks for being with us. I'm going to assume that Skip Me is not that person's last name with a nickname of Skip. So we're going to head straight down through that over to Todd.
Hey, my name is Todd with Consolidate Concepts. Our motto is we are your total print resource. What that means is if you're looking to get something done for Pride, now is the time to start thinking about it because there's a lot of delays, especially in the manufacturing facility. So now if you have any ideas of anything that you would like to present, that is what we do. We do everything from ink on paper, so your business cards, postcards, flyers, to your trade show events. So if you're doing a tablecloth, whatever that case, we are your source to get done. So a perfect client is anybody looking to do Pride. And that's it.
That's enough. Good job. Over to Victoria Chavez, also from My Point.
Hi, yes, you already know my awesome boss. She's on your board. But yes, we are here to do what inspires you as well. But yeah, we have these awesome little pens. I don't know if you can see it. Do you? And so, yes, we definitely believe that, and that's our philosophy. We're always looking for great partners. So I put in our LinkedIn profiles for both my boss and I, and we love to connect. I have about 20 years experience in credit union banking experience, and we can always help each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Last one on the list before I go at the very bottom. So Viridiana, it's your turn.
Hello, yes, hi everyone. My name is Viridiana Quintana, she, her, hers, and I am with the Better Business Bureau. Yeah, so it's great seeing you all, and thank you for the invitation, Sam. And as she shared, at the Better Business Bureau, we're always trying to host different events or have opportunities that can support our local businesses. So what I really do is host some of our events. So if anyone ever wants to connect, we also have a co-working space. If you ever want to co-work with us, please feel free to stop by, and I'll also add my LinkedIn in the chat. But thank you all.
Thank you. So glad you're able to make it today. And now my turn. I usually share a screen, but I'm not going to today. So I am a public speaking coach, helping anyone who wants to feel more prepared, polished, and powerful when they speak, whether it's that big upcoming speech that you really got to get it down right, the writing and the timing and everything else, or if in general, when you do your sales presentation, you just feel like you're not connecting, there might be something going on that we can help you with. For over 18 years, I've helped people make sure that their message is reaching their audience in a way that's clear, concise, and captivating. Because if you haven't been shown how to do it, why would you know how? There's like 15 steps between knowing English and knowing your topic to getting up and speaking. And some people intuit them and some people just need to learn them. And that's what helps the fear go away, is knowing that you have got that down and it's making it easier for you to connect with your audience. So I hope I can help you, or someone you know who you've had to sit through their program and go, ooh, this person could use some help. Send them my way. And that's me. So with that, we're going to move into the next portion of our meeting. Thank you all. Give yourselves a hand for what you did, sharing with everybody, because we all know better now. And we're going to move into the next part. I'm going to throw on that share screen for a moment. That should work. And now our guest, yes, I did turn it off. I'm going to be all set with that. So I'm going to, actually, I don't need this share screen. I need to get to my introduction, which is hopefully not showing to all of you right here. So our guest today is Fernando Z. Lopez, and they are the executive director for the San Diego LGBT Pride. They moved to San Diego in 1999 as a homeless youth and has since become a prominent LGBT community leader through their work with organizations such as Equality California and Marriage Equality USA, advocating for the rights of LGBT individuals, couples, and families. In their time with San Diego Pride, Fernando oversaw the creation and growth of Pride Youth Leadership Academy, Youth Internship Program, Pride Youth Lunch Bunch. I thought it was brunch. Guess I'm hungry. Lunch Bunch, and the Pride Youth Marching Band that foster leadership skills and development in LGBTQ plus young people. He doesn't always just work on youth groups. That was the part that I thought was really interesting. But it's wonderful that they are reaching out to them. Still trying to get used to it. So this interview is going to be a little different than some of the others that we've done, because Jeremy had asked if he could be involved in helping to lead it. And I said, tell you what, why don't I just kick it off and then I'll turn things over to Jeremy. So Jeremy is actually going to be your host for interviewing them during their program here on getting to know a little bit more about Pride. So I'm going to switch back to Zoom so I can see their face. There we go. And Fernando, welcome and thank you for being with us today. And you need to unmute.
No,
you're not going to. It's going to be a long interview on Jeremy.
No. Thanks for having me, Milo and everyone. Jeremy, always a pleasure.
Great. So your first and only question from me, and then I'll come back in at the end when we need to wrap things, is we're all probably pretty familiar with Stonewall and what happened in '69 in Manhattan. But I have to say, having lived here for over 30 years, I still don't know anything about how San Diego got started on its Pride movement. So I'd love to know just a little of the history of what was going back in late 60s, early 70s related to that.
Sure, but I have a question. Does anyone here know why Pride is in July and not in June in San Diego?
I always just figured it was to not compete with the others. Is it that?
It is sort of that, yeah. Basically in the 80s, we decided that having all of these Pride events at the same weekend made it hard for the activists in our community to organize and build lists and support and political power. So by separating them into different weekends, activists were able to travel from city to city to build political power to help build our organizations. And so that's why the decision was made. And when we decided to move across different weekends, Pride in June had been almost rained out multiple times. Like there's pictures of Christine Kehoe and like Chris Shaw with shovels, like trying to fix up the space. So when they said like, hey, move to a different date, San Diego was just like, can we do July? Because that's when we have sunshine. So
yeah, I think it's a great choice. I think some people are still sobering up from LA Pride by the time ours comes around too. So
I think that's a fair assessment.
So tell us a little bit more about the history beyond the month.
So, yes, we all know about Stonewall. I would hope we all know about Stonewall riots, right? We fought back against police brutality, systemic state-sanctioned police violence in New York. And what happened then was activists in New York created an organization that some of you may have heard of, which is called the Gay Liberation Front. And so the Gay Liberation Front started to have chapters really quickly all across the country. And so some folks here might be familiar with the name Jess Jessup, who's the founder of the Center. He's one of the founders of Lambda Archives and also one of the founders of the Gay Liberation Front. And so in 1970, predominantly students at SDSU formed, and Jess Jessup included, formed the chapter of Gay Liberation Front. And so in 1970, we had the very first gay-ins, as they were called, gay-ins, because we didn't have the word pride yet. We weren't calling these events pride. They were still commemorating the riots at Stonewall. So we had a gay-in 1970, another gay-in 1971. And then in 1972, we didn't have a gay-in, we had a conference, because the queers in San Diego were like, I know we need to organize politically. So instead of doing some like this fun event in the park, they did this giant regional Southern California conference. It was with the Gay Liberation Front. That in 1973, they went back to doing a gay-in. But then in 1973, they started pivoting. Gay Liberation Front started pivoting their organizing skills to produce what is now known as the LGBT Community Center. Back then in 1974, it was called the Center for Community Services, because no organization could have the word gay or lesbian in it. You could not write a check with the word gay or lesbian on it. So the community services. So in 1974, we were essentially a program of the Center for Community Services. And so we were a potluck next to the building, and that's how they raised money. It was a potluck in 1974. They had games and things for kids and families. And in 1974, there were also folks who were really upset that we weren't marching and other cities were marching. So there were a few folks, about a dozen or so people, who got some posters and marched down on the sidewalk because they didn't have a permit. And in 1975, we had our first permitted parade in San Diego that ended with a rally in Balboa Park. It actually, back then, the parade started at the intersection of G Street and India, that little park in downtown San Diego, if you know where that is. That's where the parade started, and they went down Broadway, and then they went up to where we now have what you might be familiar with as the Stonewall main stage in Balboa Park. So at the end of that, they had a rally. And then every single year they were like, okay, well, the march ended here and we're talking up, we're having this rally because people here, what, why don't we add some music? Why don't we add some community resources? Why don't we sell some food? Why don't we sell some beer? Why don't we sell tickets? And so year after year, it just sort of evolved and grew. And in 1994, it became more familiar to, that's when it finally changed directions. That's when it started at Normal Street and moved. It was the first time that happened was in 1994, shifted back in this direction that we know it to be today, but it still ends right there in Balboa Park, where we have that massive festival. Now, it's grown even since I started working at Pride. I've been here for 11 years, if you can believe it. I know I look like I'm 12, it's fine. I've been here for 11 years. When I started that festival, it was about 11 to 14,000 people. And this year we're estimating about 55,000 people to come to that festival. So in my tenure here, we've grown from a $1 million to a $5 million organization with 3 employees to 15. And I think pretty soon we'll have 17. So it's a whole different organization from where we started. We're the largest continuous staff of any Pride organization in the world. We're the most philanthropic Pride in the world. And we have over 40 year-round education and advocacy programs. As you heard from Milo, a lot of them center around youth and building leadership capacity around our youth. And I know Andrew has been involved in some of those youth programs as well. Thank you, Andrew. And I see like a lot of folks who are here who work on those different programs with us throughout the year.
Thanks. Before I do go to Jeremy, I just want to ask one question in that history. Do you remember when it was we moved from the naval training, the naval parking lot into Balboa Park? Because it's just so much nicer now. I just wondered if you know when that was.
So what are you referring to? Because the festivals moved sites several different times.
When I moved here in '89, it was in that parking lot. It was there for a few years, and then we moved into Balboa Park, which is just so much nicer.
So the festival as we know it now was 1994 was when it moved. The festival itself as we know it moved to the Balboa Park in 1974, but was also at like where West Coast Production Companies was. So if you know where Montage is,
Sure.
It was next to Montage for a while. And so it's sort of like moved around, and we're in Balboa Park until they kick us out with trees or whatever happens over there. I don't know. We'll see how that develops over the next few years.
Thanks. With that, I'll hand things off to Jeremy to run the rest of the interview.
Thank you, Milo. Fernando, I know that we had chatted a little bit about giving you some time to share what's going on with San Diego Pride. If you have any slides, you're welcome to share. I do have some questions, but is that something you?
Sure, I did. I brought no slides today.
That's okay.
So, you know, San Diego Pride, like I said, we've got women's programs, we have trans programs, there's scholarship programs, there's youth programs. We have a youth chorus, a youth marching band. Yesterday was election day. I hope everyone voted. We do nonpartisan voter engagement. So we have a voter engagement coordinator here who works on all of our field organizing, door knocking, phone banks, canvassing. So we'll be continuing that all through the general election if you want to get involved in that election work. Our Youth Leadership Academy is one of the tentpole events that we do. That's in November as well. And you'll be on the lookout. We're actually partnering with the Westin on producing which Rob, who's now moved over to the Westgate, was helpful with that process as well. We're hosting the International Pride Conference in 2023. So we're also the founders of the International Pride Membership Association. And so we'll be bringing together around 1,000 folks from about 150 countries around the world. We meet every single year since 1981. San Diego Pride was one of the founding members of that organization, and really excited to bring that international conference back for its 40th anniversary. First one was here in San Diego, 40th anniversary right back here in San Diego next year. Really excited for that. I hope everybody knows about the parade, rally, and festival. The rally is probably my favorite event because that's, you know, the political part. That's where we talk about the social justice. You know, that's front and center. So that's always my favorite thing. Please go to that if you've never been. It's really inspiring every single year. I think everybody knows about the parade. The festival, if you have not been, which none of us have been in 3 years, right? Really excited to bring that back. If you haven't been, please go check it out. I think, you know, even in our own community, there's stereotypes about what that festival really looks like. And if you really examine what is there, there's a wealth of resources. We have a children's garden, we have a youth zone, there's women's healthcare, trans healthcare, there's ongoing AA meetings, NA meetings, there's STI testing all throughout. And yes, we have hundreds, literally, yes, hundreds of LGBTQ BIPOC performers on 5 different stages. We have partnerships with sports organizations, there's games, there's dancers. I mean, like we build a city that's frankly larger than my hometown. So we build it and we tear it down, and it's just a beautiful thing to see. And if you haven't been, please do attend. The exciting thing that's maybe starting to make its way around is if you have been in the last few years, you will know, or ever, you will know that most or all events in the city, if they're mixed age, have things like that are called beverage gardens, fences where you have to like wait in a line and then wait in another line. And then if you want to have a cocktail, you can only like have a cocktail in this fenced off area. In my 11 years at San Diego Pride, I've been lobbying for the removal of these beverage garden fences so you can move about the cabin freely without your seatbelt on. So successfully, thankfully, this year, and with a new mayor, right, who's very supportive, this will be the first year in San Diego Pride history where we do not have beverage garden fences.
Fantastic. I just got interrupted to say that. Hooray. That's great.
You know, there's this stereotype that the festival is this drunken mess. And I think the reality, though, when the data is the average alcoholic beverage per person is 1. And so not everybody goes there to drink, right? Like we have families, we have seniors, we have folks of all ages, there's sobriety community there. But like this is a city regulation that we had to put up with for a really long time. But if you think about it, you go to the movie theater, a restaurant, a baseball game, a football game, a concert, you can have your cocktail and we can all be adults here. And so it was a regulation that was sort of imposed upon us. There was asymmetrical law enforcement there as well, with regards to LGBT events versus non-LGBT events, and the way that police would treat straight people versus LGBT people. We can go into that later. But this is the first year that we actually get to not have those beverage garden fences, and I'm really excited about that change for this year.
Nice. Fernando, I have a few questions for you. I noticed that there is now with your organization a movement called Pride 365. And just if you could speak briefly a little bit about what Pride 365 is.
Yeah, so it's part of all of those programs that we were talking about. And so a lot of this really started in the sort of mid 2000s to late 2000s when we had Ron DeHart was our executive director at the time, and Shelly Mohammed was the person who was overseeing our volunteer programs. And what we really recognize as an organization is that, like, what are the resources that we have as an organization? And one of the things that we recognized was we had a wealth of volunteers. Back then, we would have anywhere in any given year about 300 to 600 volunteers a year. And so we're like, we have this beautiful list of volunteers. How can we engage folks year round? And so a lot of it started with doing things like beach cleanups and toy drives and food drives, maybe a few times a year. But as we really cultivated that volunteer leadership, I mean, back then I could fit every single person who produced from a leadership perspective, produced the event in my office. Now, if you've been to a recent leadership meeting, we're at a church because there's 200 folks that are now in a leadership position within this organization across those multitude of programs. So what is, I think, a beautiful thing about this organization is that we use the nonprofit model and a grassroots organizing model combined to make sure that what's happening is we have members from our community at the intersection of specific identities, actually curating the content and programming of those events. And then as staff, we use our resources to make sure that those events are funded, that they're licensed, that everything that we're doing is legal and in compliance, and that they have the marketing support and the sponsorship and funding support to make those effective. And so that's really how we've grown the organization in the last 20 years or so, was a focus on that model of cultivation and development. It mitigates our financial risk, and it really allows us to make sure that the programming that we're producing is driven by the community who we're intending to serve. And so that's really helped to just build some incredible growth. That's Pride 365. I think last year we produced 75 or 78 events last year. And so we're constantly doing something. There's something to do at Pride every day of the week.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the pandemic and COVID. Was there a period where you had your, as a leader, your darkest day or week or month? Tell us about that. Tell us about what you were feeling and what you were experiencing.
Sure. Let's relive my trauma. Why not?
Sorry.
I mean, that's what I do for a living. So
there's a reason behind this question, but go ahead.
No, I really do appreciate that question. And what is queer advocacy if it is not legitimately talking about our trauma and using that to advocate for change? Actually, I was being a little facetious, but it's real. I'll tell you, I had many like just dark days. I'll tell you, there were times I walked in my front door and fell on the floor and just started bawling my eyes out because it was so fucking hard. It just was. And any business owner, any leader of any organization will know how hard it was to save your business. Because at the end of the day, I run a multi-million-dollar business, right? It's a nonprofit, but it is a business. Like how hard it is. We didn't lay off any employees. We continued our programs. In fact, we expanded our staff in our programs during that time. It was not easy. The only thing that really not the only thing, one of the things that really gave me hope is I have an incredible board. And I've been executive director now for 4.5 years. And one of the things that I was charged with doing was increasing our revenue and our reserves, because before I took over, we didn't have anything left. And so I was able to build up our reserves in just a couple of years to over $3 million. So that way, when we knew that we weren't having this event, we had the cushion in the reserves to stabilize the staff. Thank goodness. That said, when we saw this come in, it was just like, oh shit, how do we suddenly take all of these programs and put them into virtual spaces? Now, the benefit that we had as an organization is that because we have so many folks in volunteer leadership positions, we already operated in the cloud. Our phone systems were VoIP, we use Dropbox and Google Docs and Slack. and Zoom and Google Meets and all. We already did that before the pandemic. And we already had asynchronous work schedules for our employees as well. So we went into the pandemic with the ability to just like, hey, everybody, take a day off, get your shit, go home, and then we'll see you whenever this is over. But it was hard, right? Because we didn't have are the sponsors going to stay with us knowing that we don't have a parade, right? Or are they going to just go away? We didn't really have a lot of individual donors because everybody just bought tickets to the festival. And so I'll say in that time, our sponsors stayed with us, thank goodness. They invested in the work. It was the most individual donors we ever got. We lobbied really hard for the shuttered venue operator grant to actually cover Pride organizations, because in the initial draft of the legislation, it was not going to go through that way. Prides were going to be like written out of the shuttered venue grants, but Sarah Jacobs, our congresswoman, fought really hard to make sure that we could have that. And so she was really collaborative. But I'll tell you, like, in all seriousness, there were many, many days where I was just like, how the hell are we going to do this? And I just was like, do I give up? Like, what do I do? Do I keep fighting? And obviously I believe in this organization. I have an incredible board and staff, and we muscled through. That said, I don't recommend it highly. Like, my health really suffered. I collapsed a couple of times at work. I've had to go through some health stuff with my physician, which I won't really dive too much more deeply in, but it takes a toll when you're working that hard, and you really have to also somehow find a way to take care of yourself. And I don't know that I did that well.
Well, you are so passionate and inspirational to me. I know to a lot of other people. I asked that question because we too shared, a fair number of our members that either couldn't pay their dues or left. We had catering companies that had been in business 25 years that had to shutter. So thank you for sharing that. On one more, maybe not so personal, because I read all of your emails, but at one point you kind of changed your narrative, and you spoke a lot more openly about things that have happened to you in your early time here in San Diego. You mentioned, and this is stuff that you've written in your blogs, that you were a homeless youth, you were living in your car. What transitioned you as a leader to start being more personal and sharing these stories?
I actually don't know that I ever wasn't doing that. I think there was definitely a time when I became the executive director, and suddenly our newsletters 4 years ago included that content. So what I will say is, when I started getting engaged in this work really deeply, I was never not doing this work. I was doing this work as a youth, even in high school and in the 90s, right? But when I got here, many of you might be familiar with the person Benny Cartwright. And so when I was homeless in the street, living in my car, that was for me. There was one day when I was just like, I'm done. I'm gonna go to the 805 overpass, like content warning, talking about suicide. Like, I'm gonna go to the 805 overpass and I'm gonna jump. Like, I'm so tired of being homeless. I'm so tired of fighting. I am so tired of being alone. Like, I'm just gonna give up. And I didn't know a lot of people in Hillcrest at the time. This is before the internet, right? Like, was really a thing. You didn't find community. It was really hard. And so I went to, if anyone remembers, the Living Room Cafe, and I sat outside, like my feet in the gutter, bawling my eyes out because I knew I was about to go kill myself. And thankfully, somebody put their hand on my shoulder and said, "What's wrong and what can I do to help?" And that person was Benny Cartwright. And I'm very grateful that his mom agreed to give me a roof over my head. And just in that 1 month that she did that, I got a promotion at work. I was able to then afford my own place, and I, slowly but surely got involved in this work. When in the early 2000s, my then husband, I got married very young. We didn't have the legal rights and recognition and protections that we sort of enjoy today, right? Those are very new legal protections. And so what I started doing was studying constitutional law on my own, just like on the side, with a focus on employment protection and gender equity. And so that's how I started becoming more of an advocate. And from that point, I was hired by Equality California to start doing some lobbying and protection work to help pass a lot of the legal protections that we have now in the state of California. So in doing that work, you always, I joked earlier about using your trauma to in my work, like you literally have to talk about the impacts that the LGBT community faces in order to enact change. And so, you know, I know that there's things out there like the It Gets Better project, and like that's all great, but the reality is it isn't all fluffy sunshine and rainbows. Like we've passed a lot of legislation to help give us protections in the state of California, but the reality is for so many folks, especially our communities of color, women, trans folks, and gender nonconforming individuals, those laws still don't meet the lived experience of folks every single day. And so I find it important, and I always have, to talk open and authentically about the challenges that I face, because like it's not easy. It's not an easy road. It's not an easy street. It hasn't been an easy life. Many of us have privileges that we enjoy, but a lot of us are still really struggling. And so I think the change that you might be referring to, Jeremy, is that when I took over as executive director, our newsletters every single week, they had no content, but that was because the old executive directors were really focused on ticket sales. And so my very first week as the executive director, I went to my director of marketing and I said, I want to try this different way that isn't necessarily a best practice of doing our weekly newsletters, but I want to try to couple this idea of what is happening contemporarily in our movement, like broadly, and then how specifically can you get involved in that in San Diego? And so if you do read our newsletters, you'll see I'm not just always talking about our organization. I'll talk about the Women's Chorus. I'll talk about, you know, SDEBA. I'll talk about Lambda Archives, or I'll talk about voting. I'll talk about the different ways to get connected and involved throughout our community with relation to what's happening in the moment. And I also relate that very deeply and personally to my lived experience. And so I write those newsletters myself every single week from the lens of, if I was sitting across the table from you having a conversation, like having a cup of coffee, how would I explain this to my friend? And so I think that's sort of why also they come across very personal. I mean, that's my hope. And I really appreciate that you were able to see that and read that and feel that in those newsletters, because a lot of work actually does go into those things.
Oh, sure. I bet. Milo, how are we doing on time?
I think we have time for one more question.
Okay, so I'm a little jealous. You have a beautiful campus in North Park. Tell us about your Pride campus. And I know years ago we had talked about possibly having Pride having a larger campus or presence in San Diego. What are your thoughts and plans on that?
Oh, hell yeah. So we're very fortunate in many ways that we do own this building, and we're at some points rented out pieces of the building in order to help cover the mortgage. But as we've grown as an organization, we've taken up more and more space. And so now the whole front is like all for youth, which, you know, I think you heard we have a lot of youth programs. The other thing that we do is we're unlike other spaces, but in that we will give space for free to other LGBT serving nonprofits for meetings. So if you're a nonprofit organization or a community group, you can use our facilities for free, and there's mechanisms and codes to be able to get in and out without any of our staff having to be here. And so we're really grateful that we can offer that. Obviously, for a couple of years, that's been put on hiatus because no one was together, but we'll be bringing that back to full scale after Pride this year. So this is where we do house those 15 employees. All of our interns and volunteers work out of the facility. And then I think before pandemic hit, there were probably about 40 or 50 organizations that used the building on a rotating basis, because there's a ton of LGBT organizations and nonprofits in the region that do all sorts of different stuff. But our bilingual programs, our youth programs, our entertainment department is here, like everything you can think of. It's pretty cute space. If you've never been, come on down sometime and check it out. And yes, at some point I do want to have a giant campus. My hope is to have a large arts and culture, LGBT arts and culture campus in the heart of Hillcrest. We are, spoiler notes, we are actually talking to the mayor's office, our city, county, state, and federal representatives to see about doing some land swaps and building a quite large, impressive campus that will do arts and culture in the heart of Hillcrest, but also leadership capacity building and education and honor our history. And so that's probably a very long-term plan. Like, don't expect that to suddenly like pop up anytime soon, but we do have that long-term vision for the organization and for our community.
I love that idea. I look forward to it when it does happen. I should live so long, but I hope that would happen. One thing I didn't get a chance to ask you, Fernando, is would you be able to linger afterwards as people have questions at 1 o'clock, or do you need to get going?
Sure. No,
Great.
I'm all yours.
Great, because I have a couple of questions myself that I didn't want to inject in. So to wrap up the meeting part so people can get on their way, if they can't stay for that, let me get back to my PowerPoint. And here we are. This time, are we seeing it? Yes? Okay, just making sure after going through 10 slides that nobody saw. So our next lunch is going to be on August 10th because of Pride. It's a busy week. We have an announcement about an event we're holding right before it. We have Pride right afterward in July. So we're just going to take that month off from Power Lunch and come back August 10th. I would love to tell you who my guest is going to be, but as we're busy with Pride, I haven't had a chance to actually get things ready. I'm working a booth and stuff myself at Pride. So I can't tell you who it's going to be, but we will be watching your announcements. They're certainly going to show up in your inbox as to who we're going to have on next as our guest. We do have our directory and a mixer, so I'm going to turn things over to Jeremy. You can talk from here, or I can stop sharing if you have slides you need to share.
I'm going to just share a few slides here. One moment.
And it's working, although you're showing design.
I'm gonna, yeah, here we go. So
there you go.
First, before I start, I just want to thank you again, Fernando, for your very heartfelt presentation. I have watched these power lunches, and I've noticed that sometimes halfway through the presentation, 1 or 2 or 3 folks will drop off. You've had 100% participation from everyone that signed in initially. I think your message is very captivating, very inspiring, and the work that you're doing is incredible. So from my heart, thank you. And thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Again, as Milo was saying, stay for some Q&As with Fernando. One of the things that is so exciting about entering these partnerships with different government organizations is promoting other organizations. So we did get a sizable grant from the state of California promoting the California's low-cost auto insurance program. So what this is for as little as $130 a year, you can have liability insurance if you're low income, and that's in the state of California. California Low-Cost Auto, calowcostauto.com is the website, or just Google California Low-Cost Auto Insurance. As Milo mentioned, our directory sales are wrapping up. Guys, we have, if you're on the fence about purchasing an ad, now is the time to pull the trigger. Our directory sales will absolutely come to an end very soon, and artwork is due on June 20th. So this being the 8th, we have about 12 more days for, we do have Eric Carroll and some other folks. You guys love Eric. He used to be our admin. He's designing ads at a very reasonable cost. So if you need an ad advertised or need an ad created for our directory, he can help. And then it was really nice getting back engaging with Eric, just as a side note. But yeah, we're going to unveil our directory. It's going to be a minimum of 100 pages at our Pride Mixer. So our Pride Mixer is coming up, and then we're going to distribute the directory at the festival in Balboa Park. One final call for top leaders of influence, LGBTQ. Again, when I started, I talked about a new relationship that we started with San Diego Business Journal that we're thrilled about. They're happy to partner with us. And for the very first time, you think California, we're so progressive, but this is the first time the mainstream business journal of the community is recognizing, acknowledging, celebrating Pride businesses and leaders in the Pride community. So do go to SDEBA.org. You have till 5 p.m. to nominate a leader of influence. Don't worry about Fernando, don't worry about myself. We've been nominated. If there's another individual that you feel deserves this, they do have to be LGBTQ. This is not for allies. This is for members of the LGBTQ plus community. And the link is at the very top of our website. It says nominate here, just click there. Lastly, just real briefly, our Pride Business Mixers, we changed this to Monday, and we did it for a few reasons. We wanted to kick off the week. We also wanted to really respect the restaurants that we are, the bars and restaurants that we're patronizing, because that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday before Pride, they are very busy. We don't want them to lose out on any business. Monday is the slowest week. We've had it on Tuesday, I believe, because Inside Out was closed on Monday, but we're bringing it back to Monday. So it's going to be at Gossip Grill. They have capacity for over 300 individuals. We have tons of registrations, tons of non-members already registering for this event. There's some new VIP packages, and we'll also be unveiling our directory at this event. And honoring the top 50 leaders of influence LGBTQ 2022. So, last few years we had to cap registrations and cut it off. I don't see that happening, but if we get close to 250 or 275, we may have to do that. We still are over a month away, but do sign up. It's complimentary for SDEBA members. And I believe, yep,
But non-members can pay to get in, correct?
Non-members is $35. And we also have some VIP packages. I do want to do a quick shout out. We need to fix your slides, Milo, because we have
8 people.
Both Rod and Audrey are now on our board who are on this this call. So thank you so much for joining, and I'm going to send it back to you.
Great. And send me that list because I want to make sure I do update my slides. You wouldn't know from today, but I do update my slides. So let me go back to share screen to wrap things up. You can follow us in a couple of different places. Our Facebook page is facebook.com and the name of the organization. Our LinkedIn name is really complicated, so I created a tiny URL. And after that, it's just LinkedIn SDEBA. The Power Lunch page, if you ever want to tell people about an event or see one of our past events, if it was things that Fernando said, you want to go back and hear what they said again afterwards, you can go to the page and we have all of our past episodes. This slide ends at November, but we have a whole bunch more. I just ran out of room on the slide. So you can always see past events. If you're not getting our stuff, be sure you do add at sdeba.org as a safe sender on your allow list so that our stuff gets through. That's the main reason we end up in spam, is that you have to just say, I want to hear from them. And guests can join too. You do not have to be a member to hear about our events. You can email a request to info@sdeba.org and put add to email list in the subject line and just put your name in there. We're going to have your email that way, and Jeremy will take care of that. Speaking of info@sdeba.org, if there's anything you ever want to tell us, you can do it at that email address. Once you're a member, if you want to become a member, go to the Join SDEBA link on the website right there on the top, and our membership chair, Dorian Brewer, will probably get back in touch with you. If you have had people say, hey, let's get together, it's 2022. Hopefully I don't have to say this by now, but that's how you save the chat. Those 3 dots in the bottom and choose the word save chat. It's going to go to a file named like what you see down below, and then you have access to all the things in the chat. Our final thought for this month's meeting, Pride Month had to be a Pride quote, of course. When all Americans are treated as equal, no matter who they are or whom they love, we are all more free, from Barack Obama. So that wraps things up. You can send notes to the organization or to me if you have any comments. And that's all, folks, if you need to get going. But please don't. If you have any questions and just want to hear a little bit more about what Fernando will be sharing with us, I'm sure they have some interesting ideas and questions coming toward them. So we'll see what that is. Otherwise, we're going to stop the recording now. And thank you for being here. See you in 2 months for our August 10th event.